Hey everyone, and welcome to the Retention Edge podcast. I'm your host Nihal, head of growth here at MobileLoud, and this is the show where we sit down with the people shaping great customer experiences in e-commerce and retail, from marketers and CX professionals to merchandisers and design professionals. We're interested in the strategies and ideas that keep customers engaged and coming back. Today's guest is Sabrina Wong, head of design at Tapestry Brands. Welcome to the show, Sabrina.
Thank you so much. I'm so happy to be here.
Yeah, we're very excited to have you on. It was really nice meeting you at, the retail summits, finding another Toronto base, well, not based anymore, but from Toronto marketer or professional. And yeah, it's been great that we've been staying in touch.
Yeah.
Uh, Maybe to kick things off, it would be great to give a background to yourself and, your work at Tapestry, obviously, but maybe just your journey to get to this point as well.
Yeah, happy to. So currently the head of UX design at Tapestry. But like you've mentioned, I'm Canadian. I went to school at OCAD University, which is an art and design university in Toronto. So my career is really within design, but I've worked in tech for 10 years. Throughout my career, I've worked with startups, nonprofits, digital agencies, and Fortune 500 companies leveraging design to improve their products and services. Outside of work, I also teach UX design at universities across the states. Happy to
Across
be
the
here.
states. Wow, that's very cool. So you're used to being put on the spot. Do your students ever put you on the spot, or are you usually quite prepared for what they throw your way?
Um, a little bit of both.
No.
I mean, sometimes I get like their crazy questions and I'm like, "Oh, okay. Let me think about that." But yeah, no, it's all love. Love it.
That's great. And I guess what drew you to teaching on top of all the work you're probably doing already?
Yeah, I mean that's a great question. Honestly, it's the mindset of paying it forward. When I was young, I had great mentors and teachers throughout my education, even at work.
Mhm.
So my passion is really like making sure that the next generation of designers and students are well prepared for what's in store for them when they start working. So paying it forward was why I wanted to start teaching.
No, I love that. It's something I've thought about as well. I'm just looking for that first opportunity. So maybe I should head up my college and be like, "Hey, are you looking for some profs?
Yeah,
Part-time profs?" Maybe I'll go in. No, that's awesome.
the students will love it.
Yeah, I mean, I'd hope. So yeah, so for today, considering your background in UX, I really thought we'd talk about, call it the art and science of UX, right? And how thoughtful design is a key part of driving retention and brand loyalty ultimately. And, we know that UX, CRO, like anything you build that's forward facing, affects conversion rates.
Yeah.
But it's also, in general, from an overall brand perspective, a really great driver of retention and brand loyalty, maybe even in little subtle ways that brands don't even realize. So, considering that you've worked across many brands before, maybe even this current role at Tapestry, what's your thought on how UX directly shapes brand loyalty and retention at the end of the day?
Yeah, that's a great question. So UX is like a bridge between what brands are promising, what they're saying, and what the customer actually experiences. And so when that bridge is strong, you obviously build a very strong trust with the customers. And because the customers feel understood and they feel like their time is being valued, they're more likely to come back. So, for example, UX wise, when you order something online and the checkout experience is very seamless, and then you get your estimated delivery date accurately and the package arrives in perfect conditions, those are like the little things that really make a big difference and for customers to come back.
Right. And I really like the bridge analogy where it's really about getting a customer from, say, point A to point B, whatever that point B is, checkout, a product page, with as little difficulty or friction as possible. And I'd imagine across a couple of the brands that you have worked with, or even just your general experience and research, you've probably seen a lot of mistakes being made, and maybe not even intentionally, right? So I'm curious if there's called these like top level sins that brands accidentally make that, A, introduces friction, and what are maybe some of these mistakes that you kind of see each time you either step into a new role, consult, or just shop yourself as a consumer, and you're like, why do they do things that way?
Yeah, that's also a really great question. So I think one of the biggest, we'll say accidents I see is when brands overcomplicate things. So like you add something to your cart and you're so excited to buy it, and then you have to go through like 7 steps. And you're entering the same information like
Right.
5 times, or when you're forced to create an account when all you want to do is make a quick purchase. This happened to me very recently. And and sometimes like when you're filling out the forms and say you did something wrong, you don't know until you've like completed the whole
Hmm.
thing. So like if you just told me right then and there, oh, my credit card information isn't right or this isn't right, I could quickly fix it. So
Right.
things like that.
Yeah, and I guess there's pieces both from a macro design perspective, like how does the form look, but then even just little things like call it the micro copy that you show to customers when something like that happens, right? That plays a
Mhm.
huge role in that. From all the work you've done too, has there been a change you've made that had a shockingly big impact, considering maybe how insignificant it might have seemed to the companies you worked with?
Yes. And I have a good example, and then I also have a recent example that
Yeah.
wasn't so great. So I think a biggest win for sure is whether it's for the brands I'm working on right now or if for any brands really, simplifying your return process is so important. If your customers have to go through multiple screens, inputting redundant
Mhm.
information, reduce like all of that, it will cause a very clunky return process. So with our brands, once we've reduced the number of steps and we started autofilling also like known details of the customers, that actually streamlined that entire return process for our customers. They don't have to call our customer service calls anymore. We saw a reduction of that as well. So that's a very like happy path example. Unhappy path example is what I've experienced recently, not with our brands, but with a different company. I'm not going to name drop, but I had bought something for a friend. I wanted to return it. And in the order confirmation page, I had no idea where do I even click to return it. That's number one. Number two, once I got onto the website, I had to make an account. So that was another blocker. And then
Right.
a third part is once I made an account, I had to find my order and then finally return it. So all of that just took way too long.
That's interesting because I guess the use case there was you weren't necessarily a customer of that brand. You were buying it for someone else.
Yes,
But yeah, now maybe you're less inclined to either purchase things for yourself or for someone else because of this experience you had with them.
you're very
Um,
right.
yeah. Oh, that's actually an interesting use case. I wonder, maybe that's a product idea right there for someone, right?
I
Gifters.
know.
How'd you create a seamless experience for chronic gifters across the brands they shop at, right?
Exactly. And then please tell me.
When I figure it out, I will. Maybe that's my next project.
Mhm.
um, no, that's interesting, and yeah, I think returns is an interesting topic for a lot of brands where, yeah, maybe they don't necessarily think about that experience when it comes to the overall CX and a customer journey. When I guess for many people that does play a pretty big role in how they view the brand, right? It's reducing that risk of shopping with the brand by making sure that, okay, even if I didn't like this, how can we kind of invite them back in very easily to try something else, right? Or try again, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. When it comes to returns, obviously that's a bit of like an operational problem on top of just maybe call it from the UX perspective.
Mhm.
Are there any other departments or operational elements of the brands that you've worked with where you found yourself maybe stepping in to help them with with kind of your design because a large part of UX design is also like systems thinking and like how do you actually build good systems. And I don't think it necessarily is limited to the digital space, right?
Yeah.
And I kind of remember something from our conference where you were mentioning in store as an example of where you kind of stepped in to reduce friction in store. Maybe you can like speak to that a little bit.
Yeah. Do you want me to share like that exact story again?
Or like something similar. It's up to you.
Yeah.
Yeah, whatever your favorite story, let's call it.
Yeah. Okay. So I think let's share that one then. Um, so I think what was really powerful about UX is when we do bridge the gap between online and in store. So with that, I was working on a AI app and we were piloting it with our store associates. So the AI app is meant for store associates to share instant feedback. And we were piloting with our coach store associates. And what was great about that project was during our piloting, we had a customer come in and tell us during the holiday season that the music in store just wasn't, it didn't sound festive enough. So our store associate was able to instantly kind of share that feedback back to our business. And through AI, we were able to change the music to something more festive. And that was able to really help personalize the store experience for the customers, but also react quickly to customer feedback, which wasn't something that we never had before this. So, and that was where introducing something like AI, something like an AI app for these store associates really helped bridge the information from customer feedback back to the business. Otherwise, that would have taken a very long time for us to synthesize that insight and then react to it.
No, yeah, that's I found that example in particular very fascinating because it's such a minor use case in some ways, but it's probably given you a bunch of ideas of how you can build other workflows that can fit into your overall journey across touch points, which is fascinating. And I think it kind of speaks to this idea of UX being both an art and a science, where you obviously need data
Mhm.
to make these decisions, and a lot of AI driven tools basically just work off of like really massive or good data sets. But there's also like the human element of UX, where you really are trying to tap into human behavior at a deeper level. So I'd imagine in your case, and I see this with designers across the board, where I think there's designers that are call them pure creatives. There's designers that are maybe pure technical. And then finding a designer that bridges both, I think, is really where, especially for businesses where revenue and bottom line and stuff is what matters at the end of the day,
Mhm.
um, becomes quite important, right? Where you do need to be a designer and you need to think creatively, but you still need to back it with data. So in your case, when it comes to UX decisions, how are you, maybe you individually, but maybe even within your team, balancing, these data-driven insights from, say, marketing, merchandising, wherever it comes from,
Yeah.
with kind of this design intuition that you've probably built over the years?
That's a great question. I tend to think data is like a compass. So it shows you where people are going on your website or
Mhm.
your app, but design intuition is more of like a map. It helps you understand why they're behaving the way they are. So it's not just about tracking clicks and conversions, but also um, understanding the why behind those actions. And I think like especially with Tapestry, like we do such a great job of this because we use a lot of qualitative research. Like we'll do user interviews, we'll do focus groups, and that really helps us get inside the minds of our users, of our customers, and understand their motivation. So we're using like our data to pinpoint the what and qualitative research to uncover the why.
Hmm. That's super interesting. And do you find when it comes to getting this data out of customers, is there a particular type of customer or group of customers that is most inclined to help you as the brand get better?
So that's a great question. So we partner with these research
Right.
focus group companies, and we try to get as close as possible to the type of demographic that we target. Obviously, it's always good to get like a range, maybe like age group, gender, non-binary, whatnot,
Mhm.
just to kind of sample our products across like a range of people. But it has been very, very helpful in getting like example like new products that we haven't launched before, getting like a bit of like that gut check or just a bit of insight, customer insight would be is very, very helpful. um
Yeah.
yeah.
Is there Has there because something I was thinking about the other day, because even for us here at Mobile Loud, we have been doing a lot more, call it UX, product research, or even just like outcome focused research. What are our customers looking to achieve when they build a mobile app, right? Because the tool is just one part of the puzzle. Like in your case, I suppose, getting that customer to purchase once is just part of the puzzle. But what you're really trying to uncover is what would make you come back, right? What would make you come to our brands? And just to clarify, I guess, for maybe folks that don't know what Tapestry, which brands Tapestry houses, it's Coach, Kate Spade, and
Stuart Weitzman.
Stuart Weitzman. I was going to say Mark Swite, and I was like, that's the wrong name. Stuart Weitzman, yes. Uh, okay, yeah. Um, I guess here, like, we found that there's this fine line between, okay, who do we want to talk to when we're trying to figure out, say, positioning problem, product problem? And oftentimes, I think your customers, the ones that you do have, are a really good source of like feedback and information, but maybe activating them or getting them to provide you with that feedback is always tough, right? Like no one likes surveys for the most part. Do you think there's space for brands to think about UX and maybe even just general customer research within the scope of their retention and loyalty programs, right? Where let's say you have a retention program as part of being a insider, let's call it. You can take part in feedback and you get incentivized for helping us as a brand
Mhm.
get better, right? Curious if you have any thoughts on maybe whether that could work, whether that's something you've tried, or if you think it's a bit too out there for it to actually have an impact.
Actually, no, I think that's a great suggestion. I think if it's I would also, double down and say like if you are tapping into your loyalty program customers, they may even feel, more valued that you're reaching out to them for feedback about something important. I think it's quite it adds to that relationship. They almost feel like, oh, they're bringing. Not only are they, a loyal customer, but now you're going to them for feedback, for reviews or whatnot. Like this only enriches that relationship even more.
Mhm. Yeah, definitely. And I was talking to Henry, who is the design director at Mac Weldon, more on the product side. And something interesting that he said, I think, on 2 points. One earlier around keeping your customers close and really listening to what they want. So even when they make product decisions, for example, a lot of that is based on customer feedback and incentivizing customer feedback. And then the data analytics approach, for him, he was like, I don't necessarily spend my days digging into the data, doing analyses, but I will go to my marketing team, to our UX team, and kind of understand, okay, when I'm thinking about building this product, how can we make sure that it matches the intent that our customers have? And how does it ultimately feed into that overall brand experience without it just being my job as, designing the product that leads to that outcome, right? And I think it's this very cross-functional, cross-departmental approach to customer experience that really stands out in the brands that win, and I think the brands that end up sticking around in a customer's life. And I feel like you probably see this quite a bit at Tapestry as well, where it the end user experience goes beyond just your site, right? The
Right.
customer experience goes beyond just your site, and everything you're doing is tailoring that experience to that customer, no matter where they're engaging with your brand, right?
Agreed.
Have there been, that being said, have there been particular channels that the brands have currently, say whether that's your website, your in-store, maybe pop-ups or activations, where you've found it a bit more either challenging or maybe even just interesting in terms of how you need to approach designing the customer journey for any of those channels?
Mm, I think that's a really good question. So, um, I'll say like Tapestry isn't doing this right now, but I think we have a great opportunity to further bridge our e-com and our store experience because um, a lot of our customers would be shopping online, and that's one experience, right? And then shopping in store is a different experience. You get like shopping in store, you get like your store associates to help you out. You get to experience like that white glove service, and then you get to take home your purchase that might be boxed in a really beautiful way in a beautiful bag. But I mean, what about the moment you walk in, your phone already knows that you're walking into a Coach store, and it knows like your past purchases, and it can recommend something to you. Like that could be a very personalized experience that bridges the gap between digital and in store, or something like a virtual try on, or for example, where you are maybe interested in a bag and you don't have, you're just not sure, but if you kind of just like try it on virtually, maybe you can see how it looks on you. So like things like that, there are many ways that you can kind of bridge the gap between these two, like these two channels.
No, yeah, makes so much sense, and I think it's it's really cool in many ways what we're able to do as call it customer experience experts or professionals nowadays, right? Where you can take data from different parts of the business and apply that knowledge to help other teams out as well, right? With it, it's no longer a silo of okay, an online customer is different from an in-store customer. They could be the same person, right? Maybe
Yes.
5, 6 years ago, there was more of that gap, but now people are really, they view your product on Instagram, they check it out on your site, read all the product details, go into your store, try it on, and then maybe go back home and complete the purchase on their site, right? So you really do have to think about how do we, and it's tough, right? It is definitely tough to make it perfect, but you're always working, I suppose, towards um, that ideal experience for an end user, which ultimately always changes over time. And it's interesting because some of the stuff you're mentioning seems very almost experimental in nature, right? And I think as marketers, and in some respects, I find UX is a marketing function, or a part of it is a marketing function. Uh, and sometimes we fall into this trap of call it best practices, right? And I'm always of this mindset where best practices obviously exist for a reason, but if they're best practices, it's almost too late, like in a way, right? Like that's not what's gonna change the game for your brand. Um, and beyond that, there are some so-called best practices, perhaps in UX, that maybe don't actually work, but just make for like a good LinkedIn post, for example, right? So I'm curious if there's anything you've tried out in the past that, was maybe the data said, there's a great change that you should make to your brand. You tested it out, and then you were like, actually, maybe this applies to X industry, but it doesn't quite, it doesn't quite work for our type of product or our type of customer.
Um, yes. So I would say I have two examples. One is more information driven, and the other one is more design driven. So less is more when it comes to information. I think always like when it comes to best practices, we feel like, oh yeah, the customers want to have as much information as possible, right? So they can make the best decision. It makes sense, but then it becomes decision paralysis. you're presenting too much information and it becomes overwhelming. And in fact, less is more. Just prioritizing what type of information is a lot better. So whether that goes for product pages or detail pages, that's where you need to kind of prioritize. In terms of design, the hamburger menu. The hamburger menu is like that one icon or user experience that is everywhere. It works for mobile. I think it's great. But for desktop experiences, sometimes that could be too hidden. You're hiding your like very important navigation links in a hamburger menu, and sometimes your users will miss it. And I think that's more speaks more volume about users using like a website. They're not going to click through everything the way that a designer would think they would. So if you hide things, they're not going to know that it's there. So those two things.
No, that makes sense. And I think it's something we think about too when it comes to call it the app experience for customers, where part of the value of having an app, and you can totally also just build this on your site, but you get, for example, the native tab menu at the bottom of the app that simplifies navigation to key areas of the site that you're trying to point customers to.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like it's great on mobile where maybe folks have slightly lower attention spans. Their attention's at a premium, and they're used to that quick and easy path to the end. Well, with desktop, kind of to your point, there's more real estate for you to work on. So while you still need to think about your site experience from a mobile first perspective, in many ways, not neglecting that desktop experience, even if it is a shrinking user base, it's still probably a fairly important part of your experience, right? Whether that's for accessibility reasons, whether that's just for brand experience reasons, like some brands just like having their pictures blown up and on a 34-inch screen, right?
Yeah.
So no, it makes a ton of sense. And maybe going back quickly to something you mentioned about checkout, right? And how for most e-commerce brands, it's the best UX is the one that doesn't get noticed in some ways, right? The best UX often goes unnoticed and makes shopping effortless for your user. And then when it's bad, you realize that customers ultimately will end up dropping off. Partly, you could have a fantastic product, but sometimes that can only take you so far if your digital experience, for example, doesn't quite match their expectations. And I guess you mentioned a couple earlier, kind of UX sins on checkout, but are there any others that you often see when you're browsing checkout flows?
Yes, I think in addition to like, I think I mentioned like error, like inline validation errors. In addition to that, I would say progress indicators are really important. Like if you have a trillion steps and you're not telling me, I'm going to get frustrated. I'm going to be like, when does this end? How many more do I have to do? Progress indicators are super important. And then just being upfront about costs. I've definitely abandoned carts because I wasn't aware of like shipping costs or taxes or any hidden fees.
Yeah.
What is it? We call it dark UX when you hide those things. So just be transparent. Just be upfront. Yeah.
I agree. I think that's a big pet peeve of mine. Especially, I think a lot of folks go in shopping with a budget in mind, right? And often what'll draw them in is, oh, okay, this maybe it's plus or minus X, but it fits within my budget. They get to check out, and it's like, oh, I got to spend $50 more to get this. Yeah, feels a bit skeevy. But I get why brands do it, but still.
Exactly.
And there's cart abandonment on cart and on checkout. Have you found, call them recipes or like small repeatable changes that for the most part can be applied regardless of brand that can help reduce cart abandonment and maybe checkout abandonment as well?
I think like maybe just having more of like well, I like to call it like post-purchase experience, but I guess this can happen even when you haven't made a purchase yet and you're just still, maybe you left your item in cart. But I feel that it's often like neglected. I think it's very important for like when you're building like loyalty to kind of keep in communication with your customer if they've left a cart abandoned, or if they made a purchase and they haven't heard from you. It's kind of like going on a date
Right.
and you had a really good date and then you haven't heard from them in a while and you're like, oh, did I do something wrong? What's
Right.
going on? So
Right.
it's like, following up, making something like more of a personalized follow-up email that recommends like products to go with your purchase, or to kind of like go with the purchase that you were thinking about, things like that, maybe offering a discount, just letting, nudging your customers, being like, hey, I'm still thinking about you. Let's go on
Mhm.
that second date.
I love that. Um, do, do so something I've been thinking about recently when it comes to cart abandonment is because it's such a critical point in the journey, right? And we're essentially trying to just get people over the finish line. I find we really prioritize, call it that conversion value of, okay, hey, let's get them to cart. Let's focus on this segment that purchases from us when we send them that reminder, when we send them that discount. But even from my personal experience shopping, I find brands will send me, say, a checkout, hey, you left something in your cart. Don't leave it behind. But then the subsequent email is once again just a, hey, come complete your purchase instead of, hey, seems like you're not ready to commit to this purchase yet.
Mhm.
Maybe, like you kind of mentioned, maybe take more of that feedback approach, right? Or like, would you mind sharing like why you didn't complete the purchase? Did anything go wrong? Or maybe even removing the sell entirely and more selling through storytelling or selling through USPs and benefits, right? It's okay, first email, abandoned cart, or first push notification, abandoned cart. But then the next one is, hey, notice you didn't check out, but no worries. Here's why X, maybe you use a specific review. Here's why Angela, loves this purse. And it's Angela's words. And she's like, this purse is the best purse I've ever gotten. Right. And then three USPs, then you're like, check out. And then still a little bit of this conversion. And the third one could just be pure education, right? It's like, here's why us as a brand build things this way, what our values are, right? Once again, trying to maintain and build that connection with the customer beyond the sale, right? Where it's like, yes, obviously we want you to buy from us, but we actually care about you as a person, right? It's just, as cheesy as that might be. I feel like it can make a difference, right?
Yeah, no, I completely agree with that. I think what so much of push notifications lack is like that personalized feeling. You're right in the sense that it's very objective. It's like, hey, ready to make that purchase? Give me your wallet. Versus like, presenting more other reviewers that have purchased the same bag, some positive feedback, and kind of making like it more conversational and friendly, having a soft approach, I think,
Mhm.
especially when it comes to, I guess, like my business. It's like purchasing handbags and purchasing clothing. It's such a personalized experience that it's a bit of a turn off when you're coming in too strong.
Yeah, absolutely. And yeah, if a brand is working on their UX and but say it has limited time and resources, where I feel like there's maybe a problem regardless of brand size, what would you recommend as the first thing they should focus on if they were trying to have the biggest impact? Or, maybe if that's a bit too broad,
Hmm.
how would you recommend they approach finding what that one big thing is for them to deal with?
Hmm. So if it's like a small company with limited resources,
Yeah, we can
what's
use
help?
that as yeah.
Okay, I think what I've noticed a lot is on marketing web pages, for example. I think while I understand it's super important to get your value proposition across, about us, what do we do, things like that, or what do we offer, things like that. But I think it's more valuable for them to make sure that the checkout experience is prioritized, like there's enough CTAs on your homepage to lead you to a checkout experience. Because I by the time the user lands on your website, they already know who you are. They're already ready to make a purchase. So just make sure that checkout experience is as seamless as possible. What is it? Make sure that you clarify your prices. Ensure that you have mobile responsiveness as well is definitely a big thing. I think I see a lot sometimes still, like when you have a nice desktop website and then I go into mobile, a lot of things get like broken.
Right.
So those small tweaks are super important for, revenue gains.
Yeah, absolutely. And, I guess before we're coming up on time, so, just kind of wrapping things up a little bit, I always like asking a couple of forward-facing questions, right? I feel like these are always nice because it's a bit more blue ocean. You can give me whatever. There's no wrong answers. But with UX and general brand experience building evolving over time, you've already mentioned a few things around like AI-driven personalization or immersive shopping experience. Um, some stuff we kind of have, but maybe it's not quite there yet. But there's stuff that's maybe upcoming or you've had your eye on that you're genuinely excited about, maybe both as a professional, but also as a consumer. What would you say is like an emerging UX or just general brand experience trend in ecom that you're looking forward to in the next, say, 3 to 5 years?
Yeah, I would say in terms of like UX and also with the emerging like AI, web accessibility. I think there's so much that AI and UX together can improve when it comes to like uh, shopping on a website or shopping on apps for people with disabilities. So, like imagine if like an AI could like power like screen readers or something like that, or voice systems, or just, anything that makes it easy for people that experience the things that we do, because so often we only think about people that are fully abled,
Mhm.
and oftentimes it's our partners who are maybe have disabilities. My father is visually impaired. How do we encourage designers to think about creating a beautiful experience for them as well, an inclusive experience for them?
Yeah, I think the future of interfacing is like very exciting because it's going to enable so many things, both say even voice search. I know is something that has historically been terrible, but maybe now it'll get better. And I know there's some talk around like agents and like kind of tasking AI to handle things for you
Yeah.
that maybe could be done through voice, touch, even without certain abilities that folks might have.
Yeah.
Yeah, your cat's getting hungry.
I'm
uh,
so surprised that
no,
you
no,
that.
it's cute. I love tabbies. They're very cute. What's his name?
This is Artemis. I named
Artemis.
him after an anime character.
Who's the which anime?
Sailor Moon.
Oh, Sailor Moon. I've never watched it, but it's on my list. What am I watching right now? Kill la Kill. I don't know if you've ever watched that.
You're watching Kill la Kill?
Yeah,
Okay,
I'm
we
watching
gotta
Kill la
talk about that
Kill.
podcast.
Yeah, exactly. Maybe I shouldn't recommend the show. It is a bit odd, so I don't want people thinking of me any less. Amazing. I guess before we wrap things up, Sabrina, this has been wonderful. Is there anything you wanted to shout out, personal shout outs, maybe for your company? Yeah, anything you had in mind?
I guess a personal shout out to you for inviting me to this podcast.
Of
This has been
course.
a really wonderful experience. I gotta let my cat go. And then I mean, I really love mentoring. So if anyone that's listening to this that came across this podcast and wants to chat, I'm available on LinkedIn. Happy to do coffee chats. Um, and yeah, and that's me.
Oh, that's fantastic. Yeah, I'll definitely also drop some of that in the description of the videos and stuff. So hopefully you don't get spammed. I doubt it. But yeah, I mean, thank you again, Sabrina. This was wonderful. And yeah, hopefully we'll chat again soon.
Cool. Thank you. Bye.
Bye.